Welcome back to the part 2 of It Takes Two. Sheikh, just before the break, I almost cut you in mid-flow, and I know Sister wants to come in straight after, but you were in mid-flow about this antagonistic perception of men who care themselves.
Yeah, so basically, to maintain the stereotype, right, an artificial stereotype of heterosexual men, okay, as being unsophisticated, crude, not fashion conscious and things of that nature, okay, they create a separate category, okay, and they put the word sexual in there, okay. Why? To continuously undermine, I think, the male heterosexual identity, okay, because you have this myth in society right now, okay, that gays are the most talented, gays are the best dressed, okay, and so
it's a very Hollywood idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a manufactured idea. Okay, so if you find a heterosexual person who is talented, who is I don't want to use the word fashion conscious, but if you know what I mean, aesthetically conscious about their dress, who looks after their bodies, who looks after their appearance.
Hey, he might be in the closet.
Exactly, right? So they put that kind of ambiguous category for him, which is called metrosexual. And so now heterosexual men would find it disturbing for themselves if they, for example, prefer to put on cologne, or if they prefer to go to the gym to work out, or if they, are, tasteful in their choice of clothing and that type of stuff.
I haven't come across that. I think what
you have or haven't?
I haven't. If you go to the supermarkets and you look at the moisturizer, there's a whole row for men. Things to put under their eyes so they don't get bags. This is stuff that they would market towards men, and you see a lot of sportsmen now who are heterosexual who promote those products.
But would you say that their image is quite metrosexual?
I wouldn't call it metrosexual. I think I don't like that term. I don't even know what it means. Who came up with that? It's a ridiculous term. But they take pleasure out of taking care of themselves. Their skin's dry. They need to moisturize.
Everybody needs to moisturize. But again, that's a question. Do you think that those products that are being introduced for this new generation of men, let's say, like older men, for example, may sound a bit Nancy boyish, or
Well, I think, trying to look good, there's no shame in it, whatever age you are. Maybe that's not in your generation. Like older guys, you would see them buying Old Spice instead of some cologne or whatever. But I think with each generation we come up with different things. I remember in the 60s it was about aftershave, when you see the old clips, and then you had shampoos for men. Before it was shampoo or shampoo just for women. Now you have shampoos for men. The media is very savvy. There's a market. If they can sell something to men, why not? But does it have anything to do with masculinity? I think certain industries have made it look that way, say the music industry and so on and so forth. But going back to the sister's question, I suddenly thought, poor sister, she must feel quite overwhelmed with this, because again, and I'm sure this happens with men, when you step outside with your partner, you want to make a statement. This is my man, this is our family, look at our 2 kids. And then he's crushing that image that you have, and you're probably thinking, well, who else is smelling that smell?
Exactly.
And is it a reflection of me and my duties as a mother, a wife, or whoever? And she's probably feeling some resentment that you're not doing anything about it. But are people talking about our children at school, that your dad smells like this?
The guy probably doesn't even know.
There, yeah.
Okay, most likely, right? Maybe 99% of the possibility that person doesn't know, because who really likes to smell bad? Nobody.
Kids talk. Children. They say things.
He may be missing. He may be missing a beat. So it may be fair to say that ultimately that his wife needs to find a way to get it to him.
Agreed.
Whichever message it is, communicate with the husband, and maybe they can salvage the situation and improve the situation. Inshallah, that they'll be able to overcome this challenge.
Yes,
Marriages are are full of challenges. If it's okay with yourselves, we'll go on to the other letter.
Let's do it.
Dear ItTakes2, I've been married for 15 years and my wife doesn't wear makeup. She used to when we were younger, but since our children have grown up, she doesn't seem to bother making an effort. She barely initiates intimacy. Not only is this having a negative effect on me, but it's also taking a toll on our marriage. I love my wife, but I feel as though the situation is pushing me into finding affection elsewhere. Considering that I'm allowed to do so. I did want to comment on that. I could
You saw
hear
me
you
wriggling
huff,
from
I could hear
here
you puff,
to over here.
I could hear you just...
Subhanallah.
But we'll start with a shake, actually.
No, I think start with the sister.
You want to start with the sister?
Yeah.
I wanted
Yeah,
to build
no.
it. You say you
Because
build it up.
I think it might be on the same.
Respectfully,
It might be
please
on the same page.
Oh, I was trying to build up the fire, but you.
Oh dear.
preempted.
Okay. Be objective.
Talk to us, Sister Ruby. Talk to us.
The brother's first comment was his wife doesn't wear makeup. He's been married for how many years?
15 years.
15 years, and he feels what?
He feels. He says, and I quote,
Yes,
and this is. I mean, in all seriousness, this is still a challenging situation for the brother. We have to, try to be objective
No,
about it, right?
definitely.
But since our children have grown up, she doesn't, make an effort, and she barely initiates any intimacy. Yeah,
Okay, can I?
it's having a negative effect and a toll on our marriage, as far as he's concerned. That's his subjective, but
He has a
his,
right
his
to
right to his
be-
feelings.
Most definitely, and we will never belittle them. Here is my issue again: pressures on women. He's been married to the sister for 12 years.
15.
15. Has she had children? What's happened in her life during this journey? Maybe the focus was on, if she's had children, to make sure Abdul Bob does his homework, make sure the house is clean, make sure that you're excelling, her husband's excelling in his career. Maybe there's only 24 hours in a day that she has to do her amal, be a mother, be a wife, be a friend, be a daughter, etc. And maybe nature happened. She's got a bit older. Maybe before it was, she put makeup on to feel confident, or she did it because it made her feel good and be pretty for her husband. But maybe her priority now is to make sure she gets up early to get the kids out the door. So she's not thinking about the eyeliner or the lipstick. And maybe it's almost
Should
like
she?
if...
Does she need to? Would it behoove her? Is it her best advice to?
As
if
always,
brought to
I mean, with
attention?
everything, we should at all times try and be our best, most presentable, most this, most that. But the pressures of life are somewhat different. I'm not saying she shouldn't make an effort, but as a woman who's been in a marriage for 15 years, in her situation, if a husband told me that, I would be hurt. Quite frankly, if you're fixated on makeup when I've been working, raising your children, raising our children, etc., etc., and your mind is transgressing onto other things because I'm not wearing makeup, what does that say about our relationship?
The brother has mentioned that she doesn't initiate intimacy and things of this nature.
But maybe she's too tired. There's 24 hours in a day. We don't, maybe...
I'm going to ask a question then, because you mentioned a whole load of legitimate things,
Yes.
of responsibilities with the children, of responsibilities with the home. I'm just saying, who are you married to, ultimately?
I understand that. And it's a very good point, but you're married to a lot of things. You're married to your children, you're married to your husband, you're married to your career, you're married to your family, you're married to your community, you're married to the shopping, you're married to the parents' evening, you're married... I could go on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, please don't get me wrong, that I'm not telling sisters that they shouldn't be presentable. One, for a start, do it for yourself. Do it for yourself, for your self-esteem, for your own confidence, because when you look nice, you start feeling nice, and that transports onto other areas in your life. Do it for your husband. If there's anyone you should be looking pretty for, it's for your husband, definitely. But are these realistic issues that all women can deal with? When women hear something like that, again, it's a pressure. And then your next fear is, oh my God, is my husband going to go somewhere else because I haven't put eyeliner on? And I think it's not really fair. There's a lot of pressure out there for women. And again, I'm not saying don't try your best, but fit and she doesn't initiate intimacy, she might be going through the menopause. She might be tired. There's so many variables. I think sometimes men need a little bit of education. I'm sorry,
right,
but
men need education. Stick a pin. We're going to bring the sheikh in. Is this gentleman, our brother in Islam, is he being unfair? Or is he speaking his mind and speaking from his heart and his emotions, his feelings? He's expressing his feelings.
He's expressing his feelings. I don't think he's being unfair, right? I don't think he's being unfair. He might be unfair if he doesn't take into consideration or refuses to take into consideration the factors that might lead her to this. Look, 15 years of marriage, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's say, for example, the average age of getting married, let's say, is about between 20 and 24, mm-hmm. as early as you can think.
Yeah.
Right? So they're in their 30s or 40s, right?
Early 40s. Just okay? we're speculating here, but it's an average, yeah.
You find a lot of women, for example, feel unattractive after they have had their kids. Okay? You know, they might feel, the residual effects of having a kid, for example, a bit of a tummy and all that type of stuff, they don't feel very attractive. You might find women, for example, feeling less attractive when the older they get, of course, right? And this is much more significant among women than men. You find that women, for example, sometimes they might have so much work, as you have mentioned, so much responsibilities, okay, that the last thing that is important on the list is really self-maintenance. Okay, making yourself attractive for your husband.
Or intimacy. Right?
Or even intimacy. Okay? The thing is this. From a male point of view, okay? It's not, so it's being unfair in a sense, right? But it's just how men are.
Keep it real, Shane. Keep it real.
From a male point of view, the attractiveness of a wife on a relative level. You have a 50-year-old wife. You don't expect a 50-year-old wife to look like a 22-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Okay? But as a 50-year-old, you expect her to look really good as a 50-year-old.
Yes.
As a 50-year-old.
Real talk. Yes,
okay? Yes. The attractiveness of a wife. Okay? The frequency and level of satisfaction of intimate relationships of primary importance to men. Okay? They might not be the most important things compared to, for example, raising the kids, paying the mortgage, and things of that nature. All right? They might comprise only like maybe 5% of the relationship. But if it is not fulfilled, it colors 95% of the relationship. It's like one bad apple in a whole bunch, spoiling everything. Okay? And I think this is what she needs to know. What they need to do, again, in all of these situations here, it's about communication. Okay? You want me to look really good for you? All right? Then come home a little earlier and help me with this and this and this. You know what I mean?
Negotiate.
Let's put aside, for example, private time, 1 weekend every month or whatever. Where we go off by ourselves or where, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Let's make a date or something. They really need to talk about this and
inject some romance into the relationship.
Yeah, you know what I mean? She needs to know what he wants. She needs to know that the danger, the mortal danger.
I need to ask you about that
relationship.
I need to ask you about that shit.
If he's not satisfied intimately.
The brother mentions that I love my wife, but I feel as though the situation is pushing me into finding affection elsewhere, considering that I'm allowed to do so. Is that the mortal danger that you're alluding to? And does he need to disclose? Would it behoove him to disclose that type of
I don't think he needs to talk about that. That's more like a threat. If he mentions that to his wife.
That's not cool.
It's not cool to say that, right? But what he needs to know is that he knows why he might be driven towards that. So what he needs to do is to work upon fulfilling those conditions. I would not lead him to think like that.
And I would go furthermore, as I said to the ladies, if there's something that you want and you can manipulate the situation. Manipulation doesn't mean a negative term all the time. I like manipulation, the word manipulation. But
it's just that most of us don't like to be manipulated.
Well, we do it all the time in life. In the shop, you manipulate the situation to get a cheaper price, whatever you can do. But Why doesn't he instigate? I mean, if this is so important to him, the intimacy, why don't we have brothers, you know, dialing nannies? This week I want to take my wife for a makeover, and we'll take a family picture together.
Beautiful.
With her looking amazing. And, you know, after that, 4 weeks time we'll go, you know, I'll pay for a nanny and we'll go away. Why is it that he's suddenly thinking about, oh, I have other options? No, your first option is with your immediate family and your responsibilities. Let's not look for the quick fix here. I don't know what he was alluding to, but that's going to bring different things into the relationship.
Is he alluding to another wife?
Pardon?
Is he?
I don't know what he's hinting, but
okay.
maybe he is. But is that really going to fix the situation he's
doesn't,
discussing right now? And is that really going to boost a female's confidence? Oh, you know, I've raised your kids, now you've gone for a version 2.5. It's not what we're looking for. I'm just saying.
It would be better for him to create that, or work with his wife to create that 2.5. To what's the word? Like
well, put
like
some
a rebirth
spark
or
in it.
yeah,
You want
yeah.
something. Look, marriages, like anything else, take work. I call marriages like business agreements. You have meetings, you have discussions, you have to make concessions, etc.
Terms and conditions.
Exactly. Well, you need to have an environment where it's beneficial for the two people to gain something from it. He wants intimacy. Tell you what, why don't you work extra hours? Give me £100. Say spend it on yourself. I'll go and buy whatever you want me to buy because you've initiated something. And women want to be pleasing to their spouses. It's hurtful when, you know, your partner comes and says, you're all these things, but in this side you're lacking. Well, instead of saying that, help me. You know, you want me to look more attractive? Let's go on a shopping spree. You may not like eyeliner, but you think she'll look good in it. If you say, oh, what about this? I'm more likely to say, okay, I'll give it a go. But again, I feel like it's all this work is put on women, and that a lot of guys have this get out of jail route.
Where's that coming from, all the pressure on women? I'm interested.
No, I don't think so. I think right now our discussion is putting the pressure on the man. I mean,
but in the letter, he was suggesting that he was going to go for a plan B or C.
It is true, okay. But what I'm saying is, why right now what we're talking about is basically the pressure is not upon her, right, but upon him
to do something.
Okay, to do something to influence her.
I agree with you there, but most of the time, and I've heard brothers talk.
He's actually, blaming her for his
for issues that are in. As we said, it takes two. You initiate, and most of the time the people will follow. So
he's trying to make it take 3.
He's taking 4. I don't know what he's taking, but the focus needs to be on the end result. Is they want to keep their family together. I'm sure he loves his wife. He's feeling frustrated.
Yeah, he mentions.
Maybe it's an age thing. They're at different levels in their lives. But again, come on, everybody has a brain. Let's use it. You want something, give something to get something. We've
got to give to get. Sheikh, is that something natural that comes up in marriages, and you think? Because you talked about average age. We were speculating, but you talk about the average age. So is that something that maybe people need to be aware of in terms of whether it's premarital counselling and advice, or just general workshops, or things that need to be put in the community about being aware of whether it's your hygiene, or as sisters, or looking.
We should have couple date nights. Couples in the community go to restaurants, talk to each other, something like that.
Something obviously needs to be done, because this doesn't seem uncommon.
People need to know these types of things, because what this person is speaking about here is not something unusual. Okay? It happens in all communities, Muslim communities, non-Muslim communities. Okay? That when couples start getting into age 40 and above, all right? When kids come on the scene and so forth, right? You find that many times the woman becomes more saddled with more responsibility. She might be working outside. She comes home. She has to cook, look after the kids, etc., etc.
And be presentable for her
husband.
You know
what I mean? So when she has to prioritize you know, looking presentable for her husband becomes low on the priority because of these other things. Right? These things happen. Okay? Some women, for example, they think they hit 40, you know, they're no longer attractive, so they're just not interested in trying to be attractive, for example. You know, some women, after they've had their children, you know, they might not look the same way physically as they did before the kids. You know, they don't feel so good about themselves. They might not be interested in intimate relationships. If a woman doesn't feel good about herself, she's not interested in intimate relationships, just like a man. Okay? And these are things that can be fixed. These are things that can be fixed just simply by being aware of them, you know, by being able to talk about it, right? And by being able to negotiate, to contract.
You say they can be fixed, but do you think, for example, that some women are resentful about the idea of that? Like, I look after this man's children, I keep this house tip-top condition, and I do this, and on top of that, he wants me to be attractive for him. Who the hell does he think he is? Like, is that possible?
No, really, it does happen. Let's not lie. There are sections in our community that, you know, of women who feel that. But I think most women want to be attractive, not just physically, spiritually, emotionally, all these things. And when you have invested so much time in your relationship or your children or whatever, sometimes all you need is a little cue, a little nudge, but not a nudge that comes with, well, if you don't do this, this is going to happen, or I don't appreciate all this that you've done because you haven't done this. I mean, we have cases where, you know, there'll be a sister who's gotten more involved in her deen and her dress style starts changing, so she might not be coordinating her clothes. As long as she's covered, it's fine. The scarf doesn't have to match the shoes, whatever. And the husband's now thinking, well, I'm loving the fact that you're more spiritual, but physically, what's going on? And as the Sheikh said, it really needs, I think with marriage, we really have to listen out to see what the needs of the other person is. Not always listen to the voice from inside, I want this, I'm expecting this, but be receptive to what's going on around you. And I'm sorry, sisters, people are not going to like me for saying this, but there is competition out there. I'm just going to say it how it is. There are sisters, if you're not going to do it, somebody else is.
I said, you're the bad guy now.
Well, you know, when you speak the truth, you have to show all sides, I think. Sisters aren't going to like that. I'll always support my sisters and the brothers, but let's speak the truth. You know, if you're not going to look good, he's driving in the car and that billboard is going to get his attention. Or Mary Jo at work, who's decided to put some eyeliner on, people being made out of flesh, it's going to drive his attention. It is your responsibility, if you're a smart woman, and most of our sisters are, to make sure you've covered everything for yourself, not because of him, for yourself. That's a vested interest. So if he wants you to wear eyeliner, he can suggest it and he can buy it for you. Leave it in the bathroom, your gift in a ribbon. I would love that, thank you very much. But don't shove it in my face, tell me this is what I need. No, with egos, it's not going to happen.
So what say you, Sheikh? What's the best way that this brother, coming directly back to this scenario, how can he best initiate the time?
I think it's just hit it right on the head. You know what I mean?
Thank you very much.
In terms of the man taking the initiative.
Okay.
You know, and basically, that's to round it up, that's what she's saying. You know, you don't have much intimate time. Okay, you, sir, make intimate time for your wife.
Help your wife to create this space.
You know what I'm saying? You don't, you have a problem with how she appears. You know, she doesn't put on makeup and so on. You take her to a makeover, you know, once a month, for example. That they get accustomed to seeing herself beautiful or beautified.
And it's little things.
And it becomes habitual. You know what I mean? So I think she's right. I mean, this is a direct and at the same time non-confrontational way.
So
right,
with kindness,
of getting
with kindness.
a type of behavior modification that you would need.
Because again, men want, like we said, females like their spouses to be, you know, Prince Charming. Men also want their females to be, you know, attractive and alluring. It's good for everybody. I think there's no shame in saying that you both have to work at it. and it's a lifetime job, things happen, but it's the way you do it. And you know, if you want something done, make it happen, make it easy for the person, don't make it a burden. See, for sisters, they'll see it as another job to do. Oh, I'm not perfect.
That's what I'm saying, there's a list of all these things, and then on top of it,
but it's the way you do it. If you there's a company called Voucher, you don't have to start with makeup. Maybe she can go to the salon and have her hair washed. It's nice, little treats like that. Maybe buy her some nail varnish, you know, maybe little things. It's a gift. I think you'd look really good in that. It's a way, I think.
and it has to be with sensitivity, because there's a risk that the wife could take offense or go into a shell or something.
Everything has to be done with sensitivity. As I said, you know, already you might think, well, why have you bought me this? Are you doing something? You know, what's going on? Our minds wander, shaitan whispers in our ear. But we all know what our duty is in a marriage. Sometimes we need a little bit of a reminder, and sometimes we need to have the environment where these things can happen. If you've got kids, well, you know, you can't time when you're going to have time with your husband, or, you know, etc. But work on it together. I'm going to put the onus on the males, actually. Let's see what happens.
The onus on the males.
Yes, let them lead. They're the leaders of the house. Lead.
Excellent.
Everyone
Excellent.
likes gifts.
We're approaching the end. Sheikh, any final word from yourself? It's been a riveting
Men take
first.
the initiative.
Men take the
Men
initiative.
take the
And
initiative.
the sister
Yes.
said, like, well,
Look, I'm just kidding in a sense. If you have a problem with your spouse, okay, you take the initiative. If a woman has a problem with her spouse, she takes the initiative. If a man has a problem with his spouse, he takes the initiative. And I think it is logical, because that person who has that problem is the one who has the perception. Okay? They might both perceive, but the one who wants to take more action, the one who wants to leave, for example, right? Mm-hmm. The one who's
affected by it.
Yeah, the one who will write the letter to you, for example. You know what I'm saying? That person is the person who has the right to take the initiative. You know, and you know, so it's an equal opportunity type of an attitude, really.
Equal opportunity.
Yes.
I like that. That's a nice note to close on. It's been a riveting first episode, and it's been a pleasure staying with you for the duration of the It Takes Two, and hope to see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.